Hi team, welcome to the latest episode, Property Powerhouse Podcast. Welcome landlords, agents, all of our partners, family, friends to the latest episode. Following on from the most recent episode that we recorded, we talked about the Renters' Rights Bill.
Yeah.
And one of the things that came out of that was the rent protection product. So today I just wanted to talk a bit more about the changes in that product, the impact for landlords and agents, a bit more detail about what that product offers.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to start with was a bit of background about some of the change to the pricing of that rent protection product. So the insurance market is facing what they call a hard market. So we're seeing quite significant increases in premiums with that product. Some increases of up to 22% with some rent bans, which is quite significant. And some of the reasons for the increases have been the impact on your professional services team, some of the things that you've seen,
Yeah.
Bex and Leah. So prolonged eviction process. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a bit about what changes you've seen to the length of the eviction process?
Yeah, in some areas, particularly London, landlords could be waiting over 20 weeks just for a date for a hearing. Yeah. So that's not including the notice period and the bailiffs. So, some landlords could be waiting 40 weeks, and that is just for a hearing date and then the bailiff stage as well. Whereas you go back a few years, that probably would have been 8 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know. So the impact then for the insurer is the severity of the claim. So if the landlord is seeing a much longer period to gain possession and then to get the bailiffs and to actually recover some of the funds, then the insurers are seeing much larger payouts.
Well, of course, yeah. The longer the landlord's waiting with the unpaid rent, the more that the insurers are having to pay the landlord.
Yeah.
So it completely makes sense, and I can understand why it's happening. And I think with the bill as well, rent and legal protection is just such a hot topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
All landlords and agents are talking about it. I think more than ever before.
Yeah.
When you go to conferences, it seems to be a real hot topic.
Yeah, and that's one of the notes I've got, that actually the Renters' Rights Bill, Romario, we've talked about this all the time, is that the impact in terms of not being able to serve notice until later, then obviously it's just pushing back the amount of time that it's going to be before the landlord can gain possession and start collecting rent. So all of these things are having an impact. And the final thing that I've got is the legal costs as well. So the costs of defence, that all the increase in regulation, that defence claims are becoming more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen an increase this year in the court fees. That was only a slight increase, but you are right. Defences are becoming more complex, meaning it's more higher level people who are having to deal with witness statements and things like that. So naturally, the cost, does increase.
Yeah, absolutely. So legal defence is taking them more and more time to deal with cases that in the past may have been more straightforward before the complexity.
Definitely.
So Rom, I know that you speak to agents all the time about rent protection. So from their perspective, what do you think an agent should be doing now to put themselves in a stronger position, looking ahead to what changes are going to be coming?
Yeah, well, you've just touched on the price increase. So leading on to that nicely really is these agents that have always pushed rent and legal protection, had a relatively good uptake. Back end of last year, I think nationwide 15 to 20% of the market was covered with it. I think we have seen a good increase of that over the last year. So you've got some agents who are already pushing it, so they know the importance of it, but now it's a matter of really giving it a good push over this coming month month to 2 months really, towards the end of the year, ahead of the bill, to get as many of your landlords protected as possible. One, to benefit from the best premiums that, probably we're ever going to see now, really, with the new bill. But also, two, just to reassure the landlord ahead of the bill. We touched on in our previous episode that the bill is causing it's scaring landlords really. So some of them are looking to come out of it. So this protection with rent and legal protection is really the sort of piece of the puzzle that they need to feel confident and stay in the market. So what they want to do now is is be seen as an agent. You want to be seen as you're being on the front foot. You're saying to your landlords, look, the bill is coming.
Yeah.
However, it's not all scary. It's not all as doom and gloom as it may seem.
Mm-hmm.
This is the answer, and this is what we're doing as your managing agent to do for you. So as much as it may seem as, okay, it's another price increase, another expense that I have to pay as a landlord or an agent or whatever it is, but actually I think it needs to be seen as something completely different now. It's something that you must have now to protect your asset, protect your future. You know, I posted something the other day that just a little bit of sarcasm that all landlords are rich. Yeah, some are, don't get me wrong, they are. But some of them actually, it's their pension, you know?
Yeah.
So actually protect your future by having this now, protect that income. From an agent standpoint, you're protecting your landlord, but on a selfish point as well, you're protecting your business.
Yeah, 100%.
Not only your income, but for your future, because you're adding that protection. The landlord's more confident to stay in the market, therefore the longevity of your business is growing. Your managed book as well should grow as well. That's another campaign to really push out. So now is the time just to really, really push it, benefit from the best premiums, and just give the landlords the confidence before all these changes come in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and we're seeing within the next few weeks 15 to 22%. I mean, that's a huge increase in premiums, isn't it? So, you know, for landlords and agents, you know, just pick the phone up to us and we'll talk you through the products available. You know, because many landlords have a mortgage to pay as well, don't they? It's not only their future pensions, it's actually the here and now, that if your tenant's not paying the rent, how are you going to cover the mortgage?
100%.
So it's just...
I think as well, when you actually compare the fee for the premium for the policy in comparison to what you would pay for an eviction and the lost rent, you know, it is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You're looking at a couple of £100 in comparison to free, you know, in some cases £4,000 if it does get defended and complex. So it does make sense. And not only that, if a landlord did have to make a claim, it is a case of, you know, sending off their paperwork and letting a claims team handle that. Whereas if you haven't got the insurance in place, not only are you out of pocket, you're also then searching for, you know, a solicitor or a specialist like ourselves. So it does put you in a much better position, especially with, you know, with the bill coming in.
And I think the great thing about the product, Romario, that you talk to agents about and that my insurance team talk to landlords about is that if there is an issue and there is a claim, then we manage the claim in-house as well.
Yeah.
So the landlord or the agent will have access to your team, Bex, to you guys, and also to our claims handling team. So I think that gives a lot of landlords peace of mind that they know that from start to finish that they've got access to our expertise.
Definitely.
which is
Someone's
great.
in their corner, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. I think what landlords, all these changes that are coming about have come about over the last few years. Now with this, it's sometimes everyone's against the landlord, everyone's against the rental market. It's almost like they don't want it sometimes. Whereas actually landlords having that dedicated claims handler, having that someone who just builds a rapport with them and holds their hand throughout that process, it's priceless, really. And you're exactly right. I mean, average rents, we looked at it the other day, it's £1,300 to £1,400. In London, it's pushing £2,500 now. Average evictions, 8 months, lack of court reform, it's only going to increase. You know, with your quick maths, that's a lot of lost rent. Like you said, your legal expenses. But the priceless bit is, as a landlord, quite often they don't know what to do.
No, and it's really stressful, isn't it?
person.
You know, it's, you know, not just the financial element of it, it's just very, very stressful situation to go through, and to have that team behind you, with your team and run with your team as well.
Yeah,
I think
the pressure's automatically lifted, isn't it, straight
100%,
away?
100%. So Rom, I think it probably would be useful to agents that don't use us for the product at the moment, and also for landlords as well, just to give a bit of an overview of some of the headline features of the policy. What sort of benefits will it provide to you?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, does what it says on the tin initially in terms of the main thing, in terms of the rent cover, but it's 100% rent cover up until vacant possession. Okay, so I think that's really, really key, is that it doesn't get capped at 12 months, it doesn't get capped at 18 months or what have you. It's up until we've got vacant possession, which, because there is a lot of uncertainty, we don't know how long evictions are going to take. As we say, they're up and down throughout the country. That's a really key bit. So it's 100% of the rent covered up until possession. The legal fees, so from start to finish, all the notices to get in possession of the property, all of those are covered as well. one of the really key things which I actually see as one of the biggest benefits, well, not biggest benefits, but a really nice add-on for landlords as well. What unfortunately comes hand in hand with tenants stop paying rent, not to paint them all with the same brush, is that the right saying? But I think sometimes when you stop paying rent, sometimes those properties are an absolute mess when they get them back. They can't re-let them immediately, so they're having to do a lot of refurbishment works. As you touched on, they've got to pay the mortgage during that time, the cost of the works to do as well, no incoming rent. They've also probably have to pay their agent to re-let the property when it's finally ready. So you've also got that void period cover as well for up to 3 months once you get possession. So that's just a nice little blanket to wrap around that landlord and say, don't worry, we can look after you a little bit longer whilst you get that property ready to go out into the market. So you've covered with the rent. So as your let's going on, you don't need to sit there thinking, what if my tenant doesn't pay? You're covered for that, the legals and the advice, as we've touched on, and that aftercare cover as well. Yeah,
perfect. So Ron, I've got a few questions here. I'm going to fire at you now for the podcast for agents and landlords, covering RLP. So if I'm a landlord and I've had my tenant in place for years, we get this all the time. I've never had a problem with my tenant. I really love them. They're great. I've known them for years and years, blah, blah, blah. Never caused me an issue. Why should I take out RP?
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. It's what we get. I think Joe's team, speaking with landlords directly, gets it more than myself, obviously. But yeah, a big question. And it's just one of those things. It's, well, what if? I think the problem with, well, not problem with tenants now, but the problem with the world, let's say, is that life costs more than it ever has. People are being stretched even more. Rents are increasing as well. So what comes with that is that the risk of, or the chance of a tenant falling into arrears is always rising. Hence why we're seeing an increase in insurance premiums as well. So for landlords, it's one of them to say, we hope that you never have to claim on the insurance. We hope that you never have to use it. But just if that day came where that tenant loses their job, whatever that may be, and things don't go right, not necessarily the tenant's fault. It's not always the tenant's fault. These things just happen. You've got that covered just in case. We started discussing the figures earlier, and whatever your rent is, calculate that to be 8 to 10 months or however long it's going to be to get possession, the legal fees, for the sake of what's going to cost you less than £1 a day. What is it really? Even if it was £1, what is £1 a day? It's really not for that peace of mind.
That really puts it in perspective, doesn't it? That it is actually £1 a day. You can't even get a coffee for £1, can you? So it's definitely worthwhile.
And I think no matter how long you've had that particular tenant for, it's great if you've had a long-standing tenant and had no issues. Like Romario said, circumstances can change. They could lose their job, health, there's anything, and that small thing could have a big impact on them financially. They stop paying the rent, and then it's the landlord who's straight away out of pocket. So
absolutely. And I think as well, we've talked before about, actually, if you have known a tenant for a long time, and I've got this with some of my tenants, that you feel almost like they've become your friends, and actually to have an insurance policy in place, you have got that objective third party that will intervene and sort issues out, whether it's financial or, whatever they may be, whether it's mediation. So that actually it's probably in a way more important if you've got a long-standing relationship that you do have that, so that you can step back and not have to get involved in some of these contentious
and tenants
things.
do get more comfortable, the longer they've been. I had a conversation with a landlord recently who didn't have the insurance in place and was wanting to go through the eviction. And she sort of said, the tenant's been okay, there's been a couple of late payments. Usually around November, December, Christmas time, she doesn't pay rent because she's prioritising Christmas presents, and then she'll start to pay. Now, the landlord's accepting that because, it's a long-term tenancy and a long-standing tenant, but, really, if they had the insurance in place, they would be fully protected then. The landlord wouldn't have to worry, are we not going to receive rent this year for 2 months? So, it's just, again, the importance of having it in place.
Yeah, 100%. Do you get this question often from agents that I think it's a great idea, Ron, that I'm going to get RP in place for all of my managed landlords. However, do I need to wait until they take out a new agreement or they have a new tenant moving in?
Yeah, they do. To be honest, it's the flip. I always make sure that they are aware that they can get it mid-term as well, which quite often is a surprise to agents because they don't think they're going to be able to. So, of course, the tenant can't be in arrears at that moment in time, otherwise it's insuring after the fact. But so in that exact instance where you've had a tenant in there 5+ years or however long it may be, and you think, well, I can't have rent and legal protection until I've got new tenancy. Not the case at all. You can protect it now. So yeah, we get it quite a lot, but at the start of a new tenancy, mid-term, it can be covered. Comes with no claims period, of course, as well, because there is no arrears when it's coming on. So get protected straight away, it starts straight away.
So we've talked about the imminent price increases. So for any landlords listening now, any agents listening now, don't be concerned that your agreements, your tenancies may be mid-term. Speak to us. We can get the insurance in place now at any stage. Obviously, unless there's some arrears. Yeah. If it's a historic tenant reference that's been carried out and attached to that tenancy, then we can also do a new tenant reference.
Yeah.
For the agent or the landlord.
We can. Yeah.
Great. So next question for you, Rom. So I'm a landlord. Been a landlord for years. I'm just sick of all of this new regulation, renters' rights bill. Oh my God! Like reading about it every day in the papers. There's just too many things happening. So what advice would you give as an agent to those landlords?
It's the two things that we've mentioned, the importance of a managing agent and the whole purpose of this rent and legal protection. So I think almost you've got to just agree with the landlord. It's a bit of a nightmare. Who wants all these changes? No one does, So we completely understand why landlords will be in that position and want to come out of the market. However, I think it's because of they're not sure for probably maybe the first time. They may have been a landlord for 20+ years, but for the first time they're unsure on what they're doing. So that's where that managing agent needs to hold their hand and show them that actually everything is okay. What we covered in the Renters' Rights Bill episode, what Leah and Rebecca covered, is that the notices, they're not so different. Rent increases, not so different. Yeah. So actually, how it's been initially presented to everyone as this big, scary new bill that's going to change the whole market, not necessarily. Yeah. So managing agents, I think it's showing them the importance of their value, of what they do, but rent and legal protection. And I think the way you spin that is telling them the benefits of rent and legal protection. We've covered it, the 100% rent cover, legal fees, the cover afterwards as well, giving them that confidence to stay in the market. But with it, it's got to be delicate as well, because what we don't want is agents to be losing their landlords because they're reaching out to their landlords saying the renters' rights bill's coming. It's a really fine balance. We don't want them saying the renters' rights bill coming, it's the worst thing ever. It's this, get rent and legal protection. We're trying to encourage the rent and legal protection, but what we don't want to do as the opposite to that is make landlords think, oh no, I'm going to come out of the market.
It's about being informed and being prepared, I think, rather than scaremongering, because there isn't actually anything to be scared about as long as you're informed and you're prepared for it. I think that's the message, isn't it? So I'm a letting agent. I've never really sold RP before. Very few letting agents now, I would imagine. Why is it something that we should be doing now? And how do I go about, if I've never done it before, what's my comms strategy? How do I market it to my landlords? Where do I even start with that?
Few options, lots of options really. So focusing on why it's now important, as we've covered. So that just as a reach out to all of your landlords currently, I think that's really, really important. Focus on everything that we've already talked about. Focus on why it's important now, hand in hand with the Renters' Rights Bill, that angle. And again, showing that you're on the front foot as their managing agent. So that's the initial reach out. What a lot of agents that I'm working with have actually done is looked at a change in their fee structure. So what you potentially have is, as we know, you've got tenant find or let only, as some people cover. Rent collection, you have fully managed, but then what you also have is fully managed with rent protection. Okay, so actually what you're building into your managed service is rent and legal protection, adding value again to what you're giving to your landlords. So there's a couple of options what we can do as Legal for Landlords and Properly. That can be, we work with the agents to help them with their messaging to landlords, or what we can also do is speak with their landlords directly. We can also help with that. So am I right in thinking then, just to clarify on your last point, that we can support agents with marketing collateral? So if they want to do a campaign, then we can support them and we can
white label, jointly brand any marketing collateral if they want to do an exercise reaching out to landlords.
Definitely. That's what we do majority of the time, because
Yeah.
we don't want it to be about us.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because there's a reason that they're with that managing agent. That's the brand that they trust, and rightly so. It's just that what we're backing them up. So yeah, white label, and we can work with them on that.
Yeah, amazing. So best premiums moving forward. So again, just I know we've touched on this message lots of times. That I think just to keep in touch with you, Rom, isn't it, with agents, you know, to pick up the phone over the next 2-3 weeks. I would recommend really to talk about premiums now versus what potentially they are going to be, just to make sure that we get campaigns in place for agents that don't have RP and for agents that do, just to make sure that we're doing our best to make sure that all of their landlords are covered.
Definitely.
I think that's the key.
Definitely.
So in summary, I think given all of the changes, whether that's price increases, whether it's a renters' rights bill, I think this product is becoming even more important.
Yeah,
and I know it's definitely very high on our agenda when we're talking to agents and landlords. So, you know, just a message out there to all agents or landlords, you know, any queries about RP, you know, just pick the phone up again, and, you know, we'll all of us be pleased to help you.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, team.
Thank
And,
you.
Thank you very much.
Informative episode.
Yeah.
And thanks to all the audience for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.